Hi guys, Maurice Merrick here, and I want to tell you about this amazing event, the Slow Baja Vintage Expedition, October 11th through the 18th, Ensenada to Ensenada. You know my pal Michael Emery of the Slow Baja podcast? He's been on the show before. Michael does such a great job at Slow Baja. I was on the trip last fall, and it was epic. That word is used a lot now, but I guarantee it fits here. It's non-competitive, leisurely travel through an unforgettable landscape, and you'll be in the company of some of the best people you'll ever meet. You know, if you've got an old Bronco or a Myers-Manx or Toyota FJ, if it's got four-wheel drive and it's 30 years old or looks 30 years old or it's just flat out cool, you should be doing the Slow Baja Vintage Expedition. I know some of you guys have an old 4x4 sitting next to that 911 in your garage. You've got to join us. And this year is a special tribute. It's the 50th anniversary celebration of Sal Fish's first Baja 1000. Sal is a Baja legend. We're going to drive the best legs of his original route. Sal is going to be on the trip pouring Fortaleza tequila for everyone. We've got Kurt LeDuc, Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Famer, trophy truck driver, and Kurt's coming along as the mechanic. So that opens up the trip to you Jeep guys, you Scout guys, even us Land Rover guys. Michael and his team take care of all the details. It's all-inclusive, 3 meals a day. In fact, I guarantee you'll eat better in Baja than you would at home. Primo camping along the way, and a hotel for the last night where you wash away that trail dust, but the memories are going to stay with you forever. So don't miss it. October 11th through the 18th, Ensenada to Ensenada. Go to slowbaja.com/adventures. There's a link in the show notes, but space is limited. So go to slowbaja.com/adventures today and join us on the Slow Baja Vintage Expedition. Hi, everybody. This is Horsepower Heritage. I'm Maurice Merrick. Well, it's that time of year again. Some of the greatest cars in history are assembled on California's Monterey Peninsula to be shown, raced, and run across the auction block. It's the mecca of motoring we call Monterey Car Week. And one of the flagship events of the week is the Rolex Monterey Motorsports Reunion at Weathertech Raceway at Laguna Seca. Built in the rolling hills just a few miles from the coast, the track opened in 1957, and it's played an important role in the history of American motorsport, from SCCA to Trans Am and IMSA. There's much more than just vintage racing going on at Laguna, but the track needs to modernize and prepare for the future. And my guest today is one of the people who are setting the course for that goal. Mel Harder is the new president and general manager of WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. He's a motorsports management veteran who spent many years at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Circuit of the Americas, and with Chip Ganassi Racing. So I spoke with Mel about his career and the challenges of his new role at Laguna Seca, and I, for one, am excited about the changes that are in store. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Mel Harder. Enjoy. Mel Harder, thanks for coming on the show. I'm excited about this. I am a huge fan of what goes on at Laguna Seca. I'm an avid attendee, so it's exciting to have you on the show.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity, and certainly I've grown up in motorsports, and this has been one of my favorite tracks to attend events at. I've been coming here for over 30 years, so to be here working in a role and being part of this community is really special.
Yeah, and you say you grew up in motorsport, and you went to high school. Well, first of all, we should say you're from Speedway, Indiana, home of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I mean, the town essentially grew up around the track, right?
Yeah, pretty fortunate. I was a Speedway spark plug, so pretty special. I moved there when I was in the 8th grade. Very fortunate. I lived just blocks from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We had some family friends in a small town in southern Indiana that actually had an Indy car, and their son drove race cars. So it was fun. They kind of led us to that area, and was very fortunate to be able to grow up so close to the track and be such an avid fan and be able to on a daily basis after school, go over to the racetrack.
Yeah, and you must have met so many interesting people, drivers and team owners and officials. One of the things that I love about Indy is that over the years, drivers moved into like administrative roles and other roles at Indy. So that history it's kind of an unbroken line right from the start.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate. So I had a side hustle when I was in high school, and that was I would detail cars. And I learned that in May there's a lot of motorhomes and drivers, and I was able to hustle for the most famous drivers today that we look at: Bobby Unser, Al Unser Jr., Johnny Rutherford, Carl Haas. I'd be able to detail their motorhomes, polish their wheels as a kid, and it was pretty cool to be around them. They were childhood heroes, and here I was working for them. But it was really my relationship with Tony George at the time. Did the same thing for him. He became the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway at about this time, and went to work for him just as helping him out, doing side gigs and cleaning, detailing cars. And he was really the one that launched my career, giving me an opportunity to work at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway when I graduated from college in 1990, and just continued as the business grew, more opportunities came about, and gave me an opportunity to prove myself. So it was really special, and it's led to a fantastic career, many great experiences, and as you mentioned, all those drivers and whatnot that I've gotten to meet. But it all kind of started to develop more when in 1994, when the Brickyard 400 came upon. There were more duties that I had at that point with that, and then in 1996 I was the director of facilities, and which then quickly evolved. As at the same time we were starting the IndyCar series, which was the Indy Racing League at that time. It provided some openings. There were some people that went over to IndyCar to work and provided some opportunity at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So, that's really when my career started to develop, was in 1996, and roll into, it was a very fast-paced time. We were starting the IndyCar series. We ran Formula One in 2000, and that was pretty much an 18-month project to get ready for it. We had 8 major construction projects going on at one time. We were running sold-out events, tearing grandstands down, putting up temporary grandstands. We were building a pagoda, um, building the road course. Just a massive amount of work, a lot of planning, and that was those were the really fun times, really interesting times. We were going from this single event a year to 3 major events. And 2000, we had the 3 single-day largest sporting events in the world.
Incredible. And eventually you made your way up to senior vice president at the Speedway. I don't think there are many people who have that success starting literally at the bottom and making it to the top. And I've got to believe there's some lessons learned along the way that you'd like to share.
I say first thing is that it's my family. They were super supportive, but they set great ethics for me to work hard, to do the right things. And then I got opportunity. I was put in places early in my career that could help me, and if you presented yourself right, and they would give you the opportunity that you could prove yourself. I think that made a huge difference. And I was put in situations when I was very young that were difficult. And as I look back today, I certainly didn't have the experience that I do now, and I'd probably treat them differently. But it was enough that I could continue to work hard, and I was pretty quiet. I've always been pretty quiet, so I'm a good listener. So, you listen, observe, and develop. And I've had some great mentors along the way that have helped me tremendously. So, I think all around there's been great support, and great confidence that I can carry out the task.
It's funny, you took the words out of my mouth because I was thinking about how important it is to listen and observe, especially when you're a young person. Young people have sort of a confidence they haven't really earned sometimes, and they want to prove themselves. And in a lot of instances, that comes out as talking too much or sort of being too involved, trying to, put themselves in front of the right people. But listening and observation, it pays far greater dividends.
Yes, and the other thing that came with that was patience. You just things will happen if you just let them happen. Sometimes a lot of problems solve themselves with patience. Whether that's thought that comes about to find a solution, or just cooler heads prevail about what the most obvious thing is to do right. I think a little bit later in my career, I appreciate the time I spent at Chip Ganassi Racing, because it showed you, it kind of took everything that I learned before and put it at this level of, Chip likes winners. And so now you take it of, okay, I have all this experience, I'm comfortable doing it, but now what's it take to be at that top level? And the time, at Chip Ganassi really taught me that, and it really taught me a lot more about teamwork.
Yeah. And how did that opportunity come to you? I mean, obviously, you knew Chip, you knew everyone on the team and how they operate. Did he come to you and say, "Hey, Mel, I need you"? How did that go down?
Yeah, so I joined Chip Ganassi when they just secured the Ford GT program, and they were going to go to Le Mans. It was a big effort, and they needed someone to help them out on the logistics side. And it was an opportunity that I'd left Coda. I had kind of a different outlook on what I wanted to do. When you're at a facility, it's 24/7, 365 days. There's no real breaks in it. It becomes your identity. It becomes a lot of things. And I wanted to, it was almost an opportunity to start over. With a race team, it operates a lot differently. But what it did was ultimately is it gave me an abundance more of experience, not only on this part about teamwork, because when you go to work for Chip, he hires the best people. And they have a system that they can train new people to fit within. But if you're not driven, if you don't have the work ethic, you fall out of that system pretty quickly. And that's why he's so successful in the 35 years that he's been doing it, is because he hires people that are self-driven. And it's challenging to work around those people, but it's also, it's a lot of fun. Because you win a lot of races, you win a lot of championships, you get to celebrate all the time. You look around at the other teams and they don't get that opportunity, but we did get that opportunity many times, and he continues to do it today. And it's because they've set up not only a culture of winning, but they've set up that they can fit you into the system, and you can be successful provided that you're driven.
Yeah, you're kind of running with thoroughbreds every day, right? And trying to match that pace. Got to be stressful, but also pretty exhilarating.
Well, you think about it from the drivers' perspectives, the drivers that I've been able to work with. I mean, the list is super long, but to be around Dario, who's retired, but he's there and he's a student of the sport, and he's helping younger guys come up, and then obviously Scott Dixon, you know, on and off the track, just fantastic people. And I think that says a lot. You would see kids that would come into and they'd have all the tools, they'd have Dario, they'd have the best cars, but maybe they didn't have the work ethic at the time, off the track, and you could tell. And that's the part where they fall out. You can see that easily from a driver's perspective. You don't see it as much on you. The public can see it on that end, but as management, you see it on the other end. If a mechanic or a truck driver or an engineer is not doing his job to the level of the others, then it falls out pretty quickly. And that's where the team effort, it comes together. Is that it takes everybody and takes everybody performing at a very high level to create that success and that winning atmosphere.
Yeah, and I imagine that taught you a lot about going forward after you left Chip Ganassi Racing, assembling your team. Yeah, I'm sure you were mindful of all those factors, all those attributes that you want in a winning team, administratively at the track.
Yeah, I think about it in that platform, but also think about it in what I've been fortunate to have my whole career, and that's great mentors. And so when I come to Laguna Seca and I get to know the staff and what their capabilities are, I think that they're capable. They're all very capable, and there might be some experience that will be necessary to move forward. So it's my job, one, to challenge them. Two is to show them that there is a path. But more importantly, and what I've been fortunate is to have mentors and to be that mentor to help them guide their career, to help guide this facility. And there's nothing more rewarding when you find out that you have impacted somebody's lives, and that you don't think about that on a daily basis, but it happens, and sometimes you don't even know it. In fact, last week at the Moto America race, a guy came up and shook my hand and said, "You don't know this, but you had a massive impact on my family. About 12 years ago, I called you when you were at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and I asked for your help. My son had broken his feet. He was having some other issues, and he really needed some help. And I asked you if you would help us with the best orthopedic surgeon there in Indianapolis, and that was Dr. Trammell. And I said, sure, I'll do that. And I made a call to Denise Titus, she's like the mom that takes care of all the IndyCar people. She's the traveling nurse with IndyCar, and she's like, sure, we'll get him set up with Dr. Trammell. And 12 years later, this guy tells me this story. And when his son was down on his luck, today he's a doctor, and his father, he was working the Moto America race, and I'd never met him. He'd never called me back, but he showed up to share the story.
Wow. That's wonderful. Very moving. I have to ask, did he break his feet in I'm guessing he was racing and he had an accident and that's what caused the injury?
It was a bit emotional.
Sure.
It was really cool. And then he worked in race control the whole weekend, so I saw him all weekend, which was pretty cool. And we were able to share a few more laughs throughout the weekend. But the reward was that he put that phone call to him being a doctor today and all his success, and in fact, he had his grandchildren on his computer screen all weekend that we were talking about. So
Wow.
Just pretty cool.
I love traveling in Europe, and maybe you do too. But if you'd like the freedom of extended European living or even working or studying in Europe, there's a unique opportunity for classic and collector car enthusiasts to enjoy an appreciating asset and at the same time earn EU citizenship. Portugal Panorama offers a way for qualified individuals to acquire their preferred vehicles while simultaneously securing Portuguese residency through the Golden Visa program. This is a unique two-in-one opportunity aligning passion, investment, and legacy. Portugal is a nation on the move, with a fantastic climate, a vibrant economy, and high native fluency in English. Experience the historic charm of Porto, the cosmopolitan energy of Lisbon, and the relaxed coastal atmosphere of the Algarve. Ranked as one of the world's best places to retire, the business and leisure opportunities in Portugal are unparalleled. Portugal Panorama's Aquila Wheels Fund allows collectors to add to their garage while enhancing their family's optionality tenfold. Their concierge service handles the acquisition and storage of your chosen collector car, while your investment helps you earn Portuguese citizenship and an EU passport, giving you freedom of travel throughout 29 member nations. Benefits extend to immediate family members as well. Visit PortugalPanorama.com to learn more. Remember, investment involves risk, and past performance is not indicative of future results. But you can learn more at PortugalPanorama.com. We kind of bumped from your time at Indy to your time with Chip Ganassi, but in between, you were at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, and of course, Formula One and MotoGP and all sorts of stuff goes on there. Very interesting circuit. What was that experience like?
It was an interesting time. I'd been at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for 22 years, an incredible career. And we would go to these events, and I'd look around at people that had been there for 30, 40 years, and they were great. I mean, they were incredible, just totally loyal, and I appreciated that. But I also looked at that maybe I was missing a little something in my life, and I needed to expand. And so I wasn't looking for the job at Circuit of the Americas, but I had someone call and say, "Hey, there's an opportunity here." I had attended the Formula One race. I really enjoyed my time working with Formula One, enjoyed my time working with MotoGP, and I thought it was a great opportunity when they made the offer to be the general manager there. And it was an exciting time. They had just run their first Formula One race. They were really a temporary facility coming out of a construction project. It nearly was a construction project to get ready for that race. So I was able to come in and really get it up online, hire staff, put in processes. That first year, we did more there than I'd ever done at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It was like 100 years of history all happened in a year. We had 20 major concerts in the amphitheater. We had over 150 track days. We did 5 major events. It was a massive push, and in the midst of just getting all the construction work, kind of completed and the buildings up and running to where you didn't need contractors out there to run them. It was all very complicated at the time. Things were a lot different than they were in Indianapolis. The law enforcement, traffic plans, those things, they've been working at Indianapolis for, at that time, nearly 100 years, but, 90 some years. And so this was all new. You had to design it, and you had to design it for different events. And it was a great experience. Really enjoyed my time there. Then we brought on the X Games, and just a wildly different event than the motorsports events. But what was exciting about the X Games was that it kind of falls back to 1996 when we ran at the Walt Disney World Speedway, and we built, from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we built a 1-mile oval in the Magic Kingdom parking lot, and we'd go down there and run that. And it was the first IndyCar race that, at the time, Indy Racing League, it was their first event of the year. We ran that for like, I don't know, 5-6 years. And it was basically staff from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway that would go down to run it. But the X Games was a kind of my rebirth with the Disney Group, ESPN, ABC, that whole family. And it was a reinforcement of how they ran things. And it was a lot of fun to have that reinforcement. I think in my career, I learned a lot of different things, working with Formula One, working with ESPN, Disney World, that really set me up to be successful, and use those extra tools that I had later on.
Yeah, and just for context for people listening, Circuit of the Americas, there were a lot of obstacles to overcome in the design and construction and build out and all of the marketing. It was a huge lift to get that place done. And I think there was a time when people wondered if it would ever get done. So for you to come in after all of that water under the bridge, I mean, I can imagine there was a lot of pressure, and you felt the weight of that on your shoulders.
Yeah, the stories are pretty phenomenal, what they went through to get it built. I think if it was somebody who was involved in racing, he probably would have never done it. But they had a vision. It was a couple different visions that were really committed to it, and they stuck it out and they made it work. And today, to where Formula One's thriving, and they have the only permanent facility in America, which is, kudos to them for having that vision. It would been great if we could have sustained it at Indianapolis and continued on. I think we could have shared in some of that wealth that they have today, and it would have been a vital part of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, rather than being a short portion of their history.
And the other factor, of course, the X factor here is that Formula One Drive to Survive became such a huge hit, and that just injected all this enthusiasm and so many new fans. And I know there was record attendance at COTA based on the strength of the show. So yeah, that X factor, you just never know.
Well, and really that started before Drive to Survive. I mean, we developed the super stage, and it was fun to be a part of that. And we had this amphitheater that would hold 20,000 people, but the owner's like, I want something bigger. I want a bigger artist. I want 50. I want 60,000 people. And how are we going to do this? And to come up with that plan to do it, I think it's between turns 10 and 11. We put together a really cool venue, and while it was a heavy lift, it wasn't super complicated. It was already there, kind of a naturally sloped land. We decided to put the stage up on kind of in the motorhome area and had some temporary barriers installed to where took out the guardrails so that you could virtually set up the stage and pull the barriers back and be ready to go in less than an hour. But it was those things, and that was experience that we learned from Indianapolis as well. The first year we ran Formula One, it was in September. I think we had the Brickyard 400 in July, and so we took 60 days to set it up, set the course up with all these individual blocks. And today they can do that. They can flip the courses in about an hour. So we took 60 days. We took it down to about 3 weeks, about the third year in, to where then we could get it done within overnight at one point. So there's evolutions to all these things, and I think it's interesting how those experiences continue just to play out in different circumstances. But it also shows you, that if you can think about it, there's capabilities and you can get things done. You have to be creative with it and have the right people to help you with those things. But incredible opportunities all around.
Yeah, agility, right? Agility in your team, agility in your thinking. And so you have this really storied career, Indy, COTA, Chip Ganassi Racing. You bring all this experience to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. How did that opportunity come to you?
Yeah, so it goes back to a relationship when I was working at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I met Bruce Canepa, he's the vice president of the Friends of Laguna Seca, which was a not-for-profit that was started really about 9 years ago. It's passionate motorsports enthusiasts, and they've assumed the management of this facility from the county on a 55-year operational agreement. And they're dedicated to providing leadership resources required to restore, revitalize, and reinvent Laguna Seca. And so when I would come out I got to know Bruce through the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I was buying trucks from him at that time. We'd buy Kenworth T600s. He had them all, the spoilers and really cool tricked out trucks. And then I'd buy Suburbans that I was buying for Tony George that had superchargers and hopped up brakes and, just all the things that Bruce does to cars. He's an amazing car enthusiast with an incredible business close to the track, and he's always been close to Laguna Seca. And so I've known him for quite some time, and whenever I'd visit, I'd always have conversations with him about this place. And he'd be around Chip a lot, so we'd spend even more time together at other racetracks when he'd come to Indianapolis, and always enjoyed my time with him. And we didn't really talk about me coming out here to work, but he called me last year right before Thanksgiving and asked if I'd be interested, that they now have the agreement. It's 55 years. He wanted to talk further about it. So we made arrangements to chat about it and gave me some time to think about what my career was. And it really checked some boxes. My wife and I we've been thinking about where's a really cool place to live. It doesn't get any better than Monterey, California. This track has so much potential. Everyone here thinks of it as the Red Bull GP, MotoGP. That's what it's almost synonymous for. But it has a storied career, just in automotive racing and motorcycle racing. But it's been run by the county, and I think it's the passionate businessmen that are here today want to run it like a real business and make good decisions. And I don't fault the county or Scramp or anyone. It was just the agreement that they had did not favor the investment in the facility that it needed to operate at a high level. And so this 55-year operational agreement that's in place gives us the ability to build permanent structures and really look at it in a different way to maximize its use. Most people don't even know that it has a business here with the campgrounds that are available 365 days a year. There's some of the most incredible views you've ever seen. It's really cherished. Just that one asset alone has great value, and it's something that we'll be putting some time and energy into. We think of it in the past, I think it's been more thought of as an event campground. We do have an event campground, but this is a permanent campground. So we're in an area that's, five-star restaurants, hotels, and we've got this gem of a racetrack since 1957 that's been here. And, with the famous corkscrew, people love it.
Yes.
When I came out here, I was really jealous that all these guys get to do track days on a daily basis here. It's pretty incredible.
Man, you just said so much, Mel. First of all, you said restore, revitalize, and reinvent Laguna Seca. That's a great mission, and it really does need all those things. And thank you for being so frank, by the way, about a little bit of the history of, the management of the track and kind of the needs and shortcomings, because I love the place, but at the same time, I always feel like, man, this place just isn't living up to its potential. And you said that as well, that it's got so much potential. We're going to get into maybe some of the plans that you can share in a little bit. The other thing you said was what a great place Monterey is, the Monterey Peninsula and Monterey County, really. And the history there of racing really goes back to, the early days of the Pebble Beach road races, right? Starting in 1950, the Sports Car Club of America sponsored and managed races in the Del Monte Forest, which is basically right on the coast there. And then out of that came the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance. And this was really a storied time in racing history. This is post-World War II when the sports car craze just blew up in the United States, and all of the European manufacturers were back at it. And of course, names like Ferrari, which, that was a new brand, but also Jaguar and Triumph, so many other memorable ones, Alfa Romeo. And so the Pebble Beach road races ran from 1950 to 1956, and it was a race on public roads. Unfortunately, our driver named Ernie McAfee was killed when his Ferrari struck a tree in the Del Monte Forest on the course in 1956. And it hadn't been the first time there was, unfortunately, a mishap. At the same time, they realized we've got to move this. If we're going to sustain this, we need a purpose-built circuit. And so they went to the United States Army and asked if property at Fort Ord, which is a little bit inland, could be utilized for a racetrack. And there was some lobbying and massaging of the bureaucracy there. And that's how Laguna Seca came to be. So it's in this amazing bowl in the hills of rural Monterey County. It's a natural bowl. And one of the most fascinating things to me about the track is how the track was laid out. They really didn't draw up any plans. They just kind of ran a bulldozer sort of on a natural line. And it's not in its original configuration any longer, but it's largely survived. So that history is really interesting to me. And I'm sure it is to you too. I mean, you've been going there for, like you say, 30 years.
Yeah. The old track down in turn 2, the curbs are still there running through the parking lot. I believe there's some old signage that's maybe covered up too. So one of the projects here will be to maybe paint those curbs up and see what that old signage is on the old track. And I think someday it would be fun to open that track up and run it again. It wouldn't take a whole lot of work, given the fact that everything's temporary around here. It's some barriers that we could move around and maybe have a little investment and have a little bit of fun to have an event that includes the old course. But yeah, on the bulldozer, going down to make the corkscrew, you're right. It is, from the stories I've heard, it was, just whatever you lay out, just try to get back down the hill, and that's what it came up with. And how amazing! It's so thrilling, to just for anyone to drive down that. You're cresting the hill, and you've got to take that hard left and right, and it's fascinating for anyone to do it even at any speed, just to see that it works in all applications. There's nothing like it in the world, and and it's why it's one of the favorites for race teams, drivers, fans, photographers. Really unique corner. It's fascinating how it came about, and it's fascinating that it's still there in that configuration.
Yeah, Mel, the corkscrew is right up there with Eau Rouge and Radion at Spa in Belgium. It's right up there with portions of the Nordschleife at the Nürburgring in Germany. There are certain tracks where we see a feature, like the waterfront in Monaco, right? We see that and it's instantly recognizable, and everyone, even if they have never maybe seen a race there themselves, or the corkscrew just has an imprint on fans of motorsport. And I love, by the way, one of my favorite things to do is to hike to the top of the hill and kind of camp out there and watch the cars come through the corkscrew. They're not going fast, but it's so much fun to see them go over the falls like that and pick their line. And once in a while you got to spin out or something. So, and then also hearing them coming out of the Rahal Strait, they're climbing, and you don't see them until they're right at the top of the corkscrew, but you hear them full throttle up there, and then the braking, downshifting, boom, into the corkscrew, and then over the falls. The fans love it. I hope, by the way, that you've got some plans to maybe improve the ingress and egress to the corkscrew on that hill, because that's just one of the things that I always think about. Man, I wish we had maybe some paved paths here and things like that. Are there plans in that vein?
Well, certainly we've, the first job was let's fix the things that are broken while we're developing, a business plan of how we want this place to lay out in the future. And I think everyone's anxious to see that a master plan has been mentioned as part of the county agreement, and it's going to take some time to fully develop what the master plan is going to be. We want to develop the master plan based on a business plan, but we have identified that there's definitely a need for and a different layout for how we can manage the corkscrew. Just in the short term, we did some grading to fix some of the trails. We are going to continue to seed them and make the hillside look really nice. We do have some golf carts running up there to help people. On the other side of the track, we have trams. There are 30-person trams to get people around the facility a lot easier. And these are things that are new this year. We continue to evolve our tram routes and our golf cart routes to accommodate people, because we found that there were long lines trying to get people up to the corkscrew, and we do feel like there will be more paved paths. There is one paved path right now. We also see some tiers to where people can sit and enjoy it, but we want to get some more amenities up there. There are restrooms, but there's not enough. We put a bar up there, but it's temporary. I think that someday you'll see permanent facilities up there, and there's a lot of opportunity with just the corkscrew and the wine industry, and who knows, maybe we'll have our own wine that we can produce and sell up there.
Not a bad idea. Actually, the concessions up there are pretty darn good, I have to say. But, it's a long day at Laguna Seca. First of all, it's often a hot day. You definitely get your steps in, and you get a little bit of a workout if you're going up and down that hill. And there are other hills in the area. There's a lot of footpaths around the circuit where you can access a given turn or straightaway and watch the action. I have to believe, too, that there is a certain concern about kind of maintaining the natural beauty in a sense, because these are rolling hills with grassland and California live oaks, which are beautiful trees. And so you have to balance that, right? What the infrastructure versus kind of the natural beauty.
Yeah, that's the goal, is to keep the natural beauty. In fact, turn 6, the oaks have been raised, so when you're over on the other side, you can really see the underneath of them. And actually, people have been going over there now and watching turn 6 from a different perspective. It's amazing. You come up over from turn 5 over the hill and to a blind left-handed corner. It's a fascinating corner that really, it's just cleaning it up. It gives people another opportunity to sit under the trees and have some shade. And you're right, there's a lot of walking, and you do get your steps in. There's a lot of elevation, so it makes it challenging. And one of the things we've worked on for the IndyCar race here coming up is extra shade. It's challenging to put up enough shade, and we realize that in the long term. In the short term, though, we're putting in additional tents and entertainment around it, and giving people that opportunity, to at least sit down and have a drink, have some lunch, just to reset before they go back out and hang out and watch the race for a bit. It's not right at track level, but it's right on the track, but it's close enough that you can see the track, and you can see it at an LED screen close by. So we're aware of those, and we'll continue to work on that in the future. And I feel like at the IMSA race, we had a positive reaction to it. You could see that the tents were full nearly the whole time.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, more shade is always welcome because it is hot and the sun gets intense, particularly this time of year with the vintage racing during car week. Of course, you've got huge attendance, and those creature comforts are very welcome. There has to be a pretty good amount of input from spectators and fans and attendees about what they'd like to see improved. I'm sure you've read comments from your customers.
Yeah, so not only with our customers, but we have a volunteer group that it's pretty fascinating how long they've been around here. It's upwards, some of them have been upwards of 50 years. I think I had one at 55, a lot at 40 years. So they all have a lot of input, and I appreciate that. But no, we have to do the obvious things right. We have to make sure that they can get here, the traffic. We have a decent traffic plan, and that starts really before they leave their house. We've spent a lot of time on the restrooms. There are only so many permanent restrooms, but we're making sure that they look nice, they're clean. We've revamped the ones at the garage suites so that they're all new. We've fixed a lot of them up in the campgrounds. First and foremost, what was broken was fixed, and now we're upgrading as well. So the next step is, as we look at the master plan, we'll be adding more restrooms, permanent restrooms. Then how can you get around the facilities, or, with the trams and the shuttles? Those are important. And then we look, more so at the food and beverage and the concessions that we have. We're priced fairly. We have good options. It's food that you expect to have at a racetrack. And then we want to look at, what's on track versus what's off track, and the off track experience needs to be important. It starts with the food, it starts with the toilets, but the activations, the experience that you're going to see, and we continue to elevate those and find new opportunities. And I think as next year goes on, you're going to see a lot. You already see a progression in those areas, and give us another 12 months, and I think you'll see even more of that type of thing.
That's great to hear. And importantly, you mentioned the fair pricing with the concessions. And I agree with you. For a weekend's entertainment, your financial outlay is not terrible at Laguna. It's actually very fair in general. And I just think about how much it costs to go to a major league ball game now, and the concession prices and other big events to afford some of this stuff. So a day or a weekend at Laguna Seca remains reasonable, and it's great family fun. And, by the way, that makes me think of being in the paddock, because the paddock is one of the greatest things about going to the track, right? Tell me about what that means to you and that experience and allowing the fans in there.
Yeah, when coming from Indianapolis, it's totally opposite. It's very restrictive in Indianapolis, and here you have the ultimate pass. Any general admission ticket gets you access to the paddock. That means that you can walk by the garages and see the cars in there. You don't need a special pass. You don't need a guided tour. You're able to catch the drivers going back and forth from their transporters to the pit lane. They're accessible. The crew members, you can see how they work. You can engage people all around, from team owners to engineers to mechanics, truck drivers, the caterers. Amazing access to see it all up close. It's one of the few venues on the IndyCar circuit. The road racing is the most popular for that type of thing, but the access here is incredible. And it's only, as you talk about, you get your steps in. I really can literally be at any place on the facility from a central point probably in 5 minutes. And so while it's extreme and you'll get a lot of steps in, it's all very close. The pedestrian bridge makes it super easy to get into the paddock or go to the grandstands, whichever you might like, or to go to the lake bed. It's really the corkscrew would probably take me 10 minutes to get to if I'm on the other side of the property. So access all around for the general fan, not to mention kids 15 and under are free. So, it's a big opportunity for families to come out. We encourage that, and the next generation is important. And coming from Indianapolis, where it's all about legacy, I get the same message from people here. They came out with their father. Now they have their own children, and they want to bring them out here and share the experience. And they do it through car racing. They do it through this venue. It's something that we need to continue to encourage families to hand down that opportunity, that special time to spend with their kids.
Well said. I love that experience. When you get to see the cars up close and personal and see the teams prepping, and it's wonderful. Let's talk about the motorsports reunion during Monterey Car Week. Are you out there on a pit bike making the rounds, and what are you doing that weekend?
Interestingly enough, I've never been to the reunion.
Oh, interesting.
So while I've been to IndyCar races, IMSA races, and then I've been to those all around the nation, the reunion's going to be new to me. But yeah, you'll find me anywhere. My job on a daily basis is to get out to all the volunteers at the different locations, check on them, see that they're working the way I think they should, that they're capable of, and what improvements we can make now or what improvements we can make later. And making my ways around, and that includes, hospitality and vehicle control, whether it's the parking lots and traffic, and checking on our contractors. And so you might find me anywhere. You might find me in a bathroom checking it out. You might find me at a gate. You might find me in a parking lot. Eventually, I'll make my way down to the paddock, and it seems like that's once you get there, you're kind of stuck because things start happening, and I enjoy that part. But first and foremost, I want to make sure that everything around is working the way that it should be, and that everyone's happy and showing their best for our guests. And not only that, but that our volunteers that are here are enjoying themselves. They give up their time, and we appreciate that. And it's a vital part of this facility. And no matter what level you're working at, whether you're a guest or volunteer or an employee here, want to make sure that you really enjoy what you're doing and you're here for a good reason.
I really admire that hands-on approach. Mel, I'm sure you know Terry Cargis from the Peterson Museum.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Great guy.
One of the most important things he learned early in his career, and this was when he was at Disneyland, was like really two key things to keep in mind when you're running an event space, an attraction. It's cleanliness and friendliness. And he never forgot that. He beats the drum on that. And seems to me that you have that same kind of mindset. So
no, Terry's fantastic. I've gotten to know him since my time here. Actually, been nice to be able to spend some more time with him. And yes, he is fantastic. But I've always had it in me. I always looked up to how Roger Penske ran his businesses. That it's Penske perfect, and
great example.
It's something that I've tried to emulate to make sure that the details are taken care of. And when I started my career, I go back to 1996 when I was director of facilities at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The race was scheduled on Sunday, and we didn't run it until Tuesday. I was into the job. I think I started beginning of April, so I didn't really have a lot of opportunity. I was riding the wave and learning it at the same time. But the people showed up all 3 days, and we didn't really have a plan for trash. What they did was, when the event was over, they'd take the next 30 days and empty all the cans and clean the grandstands out. And after people showed up for 3 days, not completely full grandstands, but we had a massive trash problem. And we developed, the next year, we took the Disney model and we developed how can we clean the place up in 24 hours. And we went from overflowing trash cans during an event to nothing on the ground, trash cans emptied during the day as we go on for the whole month, and the place 95% clean in 24 hours. And we did it utilizing volunteer groups, so we were giving back, but it made a massive difference, not only in how the facility was presented, but how how people treated the facility. They started to throw things in the trash can and not on the ground, and it was a massive transformation. And now it's expected. At the time, it was okay, but you go into the grounds, from then on, and it's immaculate all the time.
If you and your team have done your jobs well, attendees shouldn't even really notice, right? It shouldn't even be something that we think about when we go to the track.
Yeah, and that's the challenge, is when it's showtime, the trucks stop, the golf carts stop. Let's let the guests be on foot. It takes a lot of work. We appreciate that the workers have to get their work completed, but how can we do it in a seamless way that doesn't it's unnoticeable?
Right.
But as far as the economic engine that we are for the community, the track is busy over 250 days a year. That's probably light. But when there's activity at the track, there's hotel rooms, there's food, there's people that are spending an extra day in the area just because they're here. Porsche, we just named them as the official car, and they're going to run an experience here where they'll have over 100 days. That'll be about 40 hotel nights. So, and they're going to do it at that 5-star level.
Yes, and you mentioned Friends of Laguna Seca earlier, and this is sort of the all-star management team, right, that's behind the vision for the future of the track. And these are guys who are at the top of their game in various disciplines, whether it's the legal side or the civil engineering side, the marketing. Great team. I was thinking about, like I said before, the things that I love about Laguna and the things that I wish I could see improvement on. And you may not be able to share with me if you've got plans for this, but I would love to see like a 500-person occupancy hotel on the property. And it would be so convenient in so many ways. Are there any plans for accommodations of that nature?
Yeah, that's one that I'm probably not going to touch right now. Certainly.
I figured, but I mean, you can see the potential, right?
Yeah, no, it's, I think the vision from this group is really large.
Yeah.
And, we want to be sensitive to the community and to what they want us to be, and then balance that with what we need to be to keep the facility going. So
that's totally fair.
I think as the master plan comes about, you're going to see that there's more opportunities to experience this facility on a daily basis and not so much on a limited basis that, if there's a pro race going on that, you can only watch it, that there's something that you can interact and be involved in.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And you're right. There has to be a balance, but these guys dream big. I mean, Canapa, come on.
Well, and, Ross Merrill is the president of Friends of Laguna Seca, and
right.
Ross is big into the ag business and offers up an incredible vision on what the facility can be, and also has the experience with the terrain here, and really, as he's learning the businesses, how similar it is to the business that he has, and we talk about it, no different than he has. If he doesn't get rid of his strawberries or lettuce, that it goes to waste. And,
right.
We've got a born on date for our events, and if we don't sell them out, they go to waste. So at this point, they're leading the vision. I'm operating on a day-to-day basis, and we'll come together and figure out what the best plan is moving forward.
Mel, on a personal note, I understand that you are quite the motorcycle enthusiast. So are you a dirt guy? Are you a street guy? What kind of bikes do you like?
Well, so interestingly enough, and I hope that this turns it in a positive way. So when I was at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it was an oval track, and when we built the road course, we didn't really understand how to use it. And today, it's used a lot more, and we were pretty limited in what we were doing then, just on our policies, and they've evolved, in the correct way to utilize that facility more. But anyway, I had a lot of weekends off, so I had a little bit of everything. I had a motocross bike. Motocross has always been my passion. It's the one that I find the most difficult to do. I had a road race bike that I would do track days on. In fact, one year we came out to Laguna Seca and brought a bunch of bikes from, it was a buddy of mine from Kentucky, and we brought about 10 bikes out and did a couple track days. So that was a real bucket list and fun things to do. But I've been to Barber and a lot of tracks around the Midwest, riding Mid-Ohio. So I've enjoyed that part of it. And then I like to ride on street, and I like to do some dual sports where I can get off onto some gravel roads and things. But when I was at Indianapolis, I had 4 different bikes, kind of take my choice, and now I'm down to 1. Because when you were on a race team, you're traveling every weekend, and I would come home and felt like I needed to spend time with my wife because I'd been gone for so long. But now that I'm back at a racetrack and it's not heavy travel, and I have some of the most beautiful roads and incredible motorcycle places, I'm hopeful that I can get back on the bike and go ride. And it'll probably be a mixture again of what the opportunity is to do. I know I want to get back out on track. Ross did lend me his Porsche to make a few laps here a couple weeks ago, which was pretty special.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good time, but I need to get settled in. Right now, it's long days. We're in the middle of the season. Whenever I'd ride my motorcycle, I was cautious that during the season I kind of put it up and just concentrated on my work.
Yeah, you don't want to layer down and then be out at the most critical point in your year. You don't want to lay it down ever, right? But I enjoy riding myself, and for me, it's definitely therapeutic, and I imagine you feel the same way. Mentally therapeutic, that is.
No, it's a place to get out and clear my thoughts. It takes about an hour, 2 hours to get them clear, and then the thinking cap comes back on, and you can be a little bit creative. So I enjoy it. Some of my favorite rides, I would go out with buddies and we'd ride the county roads in southern Indiana, which is really beautiful. People don't think of Indiana as having some beautiful scenery, but it does. But sometimes we go too fast, and it kind of gets the adrenaline pumping and maybe be a little bit dangerous. And I fast forward that to when I was at Circuit of the Americas. I went on a ride with Kevin Schwantz one day, and I was a little nervous about it. I've been friends with Kevin for a long time, and he's like, "Yeah, let's go for a ride." And he took us to Luckenbach from Austin,
Sure.
and it was one of the most fantastic rides I've ever had. I don't think we rode over 55 miles an hour the whole day. It was the ability just to sit back and enjoy the scenery and the beautiful roads. And, we cut through some farmland that he knew how to get through. And, it's just a different perspective. And I think when you're out on a motorcycle anymore, I appreciate just the relaxing and having a nice ride and being able to not going so fast that I can enjoy the scenery and not worry about if I'm going to make it through the next corner.
Yeah, and you don't need to. There's no imperative to be gonzo on the bike. I love that kind of riding myself, and there's so many great roads in and around the Texas Hill Country. And I know Luckenbach. I've been there myself, and you get a nice cold beer and sit and listen to some live music and stroll around. The place is full of character, of course. So yeah, I've had that experience myself.
Yeah, so we'll continue to make experiences. I think that's what's really special about the people that you're around. I've been able to do some really cool things in my life, and one of the experiences a couple weeks ago was seeing Wayne Rainey ride it the first time. Since his accident around Laguna Seca. He did it during Moto America weekend a couple times, but it was really cool when he came out here on his own a couple weeks before just to try the bike out and do it. And as I think back of all the cool things I've done or been involved in, Jeff Gordon and Juan Montoya trading seats at Indianapolis, and Jeff drove the Formula One car, and Juan drove his NASCAR. And at the time, I would have never thought that Juan would have been the one that would go on to drive NASCAR. I would have thought that Jeff would have gone to Formula One, but how things change. So it's just cool to be able to be a part of those things. And Jeff coming out here for the IROC race at the reunion. I think it's going to be his first time ever here, and a lot of other NASCAR drivers with Mark Martin, Kurt Busch, Jensen Button's our Grand Marshal, and with Formula One being here, there's going to be a clash of the giants. For America, the IROC races were pretty big, and excited about that class, but equally excited as to all the cool cars that are going to be here for Formula One celebration of their 75-year anniversary.
I will be at the track during Monterey Car Week. And Mel, I really hope to see you there.
Yeah, for sure. Please let me know when you're going to be here. We welcome everybody to come out. Tickets are available at weathertechraceway.com.
Mel Harder, President and General Manager of WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Mel, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Maurice. It was really enjoyed it. Appreciate all the knowledge and passion that you have about Laguna Seca, much like all of our guests and volunteers that do come out here. So looking forward to seeing you at the Rolex reunion, and really enjoyed the show.
Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it. That's all for this episode of Horsepower Heritage. Rate and review the show. Give me 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. And visit buymeacoffee.com/HP Heritage to become a supporter. And until next time, I'm Maurice Merrick. Thanks for listening.